Arsenal became unstoppable with this tactic. Arsenal have gone from a team struggling to reach Champions League football to now looking like the biggest title contender in the Premier League. Except for a few FA Cup runs and regularly finishing above Spurs in the league, there hasn't really been much to cheer about since the invincible season in 2004. How has Mikel Arteta turned this ship around? We'll take you through some of the biggest changes the manager has done, including his tactical approach and signings. The change in strategy. Since Wenger's last years in charge, Arsenal have seemed lost, both on and off the pitch. It didn't really get any better with the introduction of Unai Emery as Wenger's successor, and a month with interim manager Freddie Ljungberg after Emery got sacked after 1.5 years in charge. Therefore, there was a lot of excitement among the Arsenal fans when former club captain Mikel Arteta took the job as manager in December of 2019. A lot of the fans were also nervous and skeptical as this was the Spaniard's first big manager job. Luckily for Arteta, Arsenal had appointed club legend Edu as the club's first ever technical director 6 months earlier. We'll not dive deep into this, but the cooperation between these two has been really important for Arsenal's success so far. Let's just say that Arsenal have stopped signing players like Hervino, Mustafi, and Park Chu-young. Yes, there were some strange signings in Edu's first year, with the likes of David Luiz, Willian, and record signing Nicolas Pepe. However, 9 of the 11 players that have played most games for Arsenal this season have been bought with Edu in charge. In other words, Arteta's new team has strategically been built by stone in recent years. For each season, Arteta's Arsenal have started to look more like the Spanish manager wants them to, especially on the pitch. The football is more fluid, and the players are more suited to the style of play that now have made the Gunners to the biggest title contenders. Arsenal have for years cracked under pressure, choked when it mattered the most, and at times been bullied by physical teams away from home. Arteta has first and foremost taught his team to control games in a totally different way than earlier Arsenal sides have been able to. Not unlike his mentor Pep Guardiola had to teach his City team after his first season in the Premier League. Guardiola also had a difficult start at first, with a team that didn't suit his style perfectly, in a country that was convinced his style wouldn't work in England. Easy to forget, considering how dominating Manchester City have become. Arteta was involved in that process at City and had his own plans to do something similar at Arsenal. Maybe that was one of the reasons Arteta wanted so bad to get the signatures of former City players Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko last summer. Arsenal's tactical development. If we look at Arsenal's passing network from last season, which The Athletic posted earlier, we can see that there's some difference from this season. One key difference is the introduction of Zinchenko in the team. With the left back often coming into more central areas of the field, this has made a change in the unpredictability of Arteta's team, but also given Granit Xhaka the freedom to play in a more advanced position, which have suited him very well. His goal and attacking contribution this season had been far ahead of his earlier seasons at Emirates. Arsenal lines up in a classic 4-3-3 like the Guardiola teams have done so successfully for so many years. Even though Pep had been innovative with the structure, both at Bayern and City, the foundation has always been 4-3-3. This can also be said about the Gunners this season, as Ben White isn't the most natural of right backs and Zinchenko knows exactly when to move inside to partner up with Thomas Partey as a pivot. Arsenal has built a lot of their attacks in a 3-2-2-3 structure. Some call this a 3-box-3 structure. This is very similar to what City also have done this season. With the positional playing style that these teams have in common, there are a lot of advantages with the structure. If you're curious and want to learn more about this structure, we've linked a great article in the description, so be sure to check that out as well. We'll try to summarize the advantages in just a minute, but we need to take a quick look at a comparison from Arsenal's last seasons. This season, Arsenal are leading the Premier League after 30 games. If we go back 2 years, Arteta's men were in 10th position in the league after 28 games, with a win rate at just 43%. Things got a bit better last season. After 28 games, Arsenal were in 4th and heading for Champions League football with a win rate of 61%. Nevertheless, the Gunners just lost out on Champions League after 2 defeats in game week 35 and 36. And even worse, they lost the place to Tottenham. What's in the box? The 3-box-3 structure is mostly used in possession of the ball. Arsenal have changed between a couple of different pressing systems, but let's focus on when they have the ball. After all, they've had a lot of possession this season. The double pivot structure was traditionally not usual at all in positional teams. One claimed that 2 players could get in each other's way and also be covered by one single opponent player. If that was the case, it would cause problems with progressing the ball in central areas, forcing the ball out to the wide fullbacks, which is not ideal for positional teams, as they are limited with space and options close to the sideline. However, a lot changed from Johan Cruyff's time until now. Both the back pass rules in 1992 and the modification to the goal kick rule in 2019 led to teams needing more players in the central zone during build-up. Most teams press high and use man marking in a high press. A central box is suddenly more normal, also in more positional teams. One thing's for sure, we know that managers get inspired and steal ideas from each other. Roberto De Zerbi shocked a lot of football fans when his Shakhtar team completely outplayed Real Madrid at Bernabeu with a really innovative style. He's for sure brought this with him to Brighton, and both Arsenal and City have taken inspiration from De Zerbi's double pivot system. By using Partey and Zinchenko at close to each other, but at different heights, Arsenal has been able to play better in smaller areas, create triangles, break opponents' pressure lines, and progress the ball to the dangerous players further up the pitch. But why have Arsenal changed to 3 central players at the back in a build-up situation? Now that they have player types that are more suited to play in smaller spaces, they're better to progress the ball centrally. It's a better fit for the lineup, but they are also less vulnerable to get trapped wide. In short, a left center back has a larger angle and more option to pass than a fullback closer to the sideline. With the right players, this can give more control when teams wish to press them high. Guardiola famously claimed that you defend while you have the ball, in the way you structure your team. What you're able to do during defensive transition depends on how your structure looks like. With the 3-2 base, Arsenal have a lot of bodies at the center of the pitch, even if players like Ødegaard and Xhaka are more high and wide than usual. If Arsenal lose possession, let's say in Xhaka's position, it's still really difficult for the opponent to find inner channels for counterattacks. If the counterattack instead goes wide, Arsenal have more time to regroup and force the ball carrier out wide. Also, this structure often gives Arsenal a numerical advantage where possession is lost, meaning they are able to counterpress really quickly and regain possession in dangerous areas for the opposition. All of Arsenal's attacking players have been outstanding with Arteta's tactical change. It has also been interesting to see the relation between the players and how they affect each other's performances. The trio Saka, Ødegaard, and White have worked together great. Gabriel Jesus has had a huge impact on Arsenal in general, but also on his fellow Brazilian Gabriel Martinelli. Despite a great start to the season, Martinelli went 6 games in a row with no goal contribution when Jesus was out injured. However, when Leandro Trossard arrived and started playing more, Martinelli suddenly played great again. We're sure Arteta have found out which players work best together by now. Their new tactical approach has made Arsenal unstoppable this season. Even if the principles of play are similar to recent years, the new formation and signings have made a huge impact. Will Arsenal choke this year again, or can Arteta lead the Gunners to their first Premier League title since 2004? His captain, Martin Ødegaard, has been vital to the team's performances. Check out why in this video next.